What's going on, everybody? Danger Rock here. Today we're going to be looking at some of my favorite figures from my collection. Today we're going to be looking at the Spider-Man 3 Black Suit Spider-Man. This is a really cool action figure. As you can see here, I have two different variations of him. I didn't even know until now that Hasbro released a 6-inch version and a 3-inch version of the black costume Spider-Man. These are some very nostalgic figures in my collection. These came out around 2006 and 2007 for the release of Spider-Man 3. And it's really nice to have these Sam Raimi Spider-Mans in my collections, because the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire was one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. And it still is. That's what got me into comic book movies. Was the second one is my favorite. The first one was great as well. I also did like the third one, but out of all of them, Spider-Man 2 ended up being my favorite. And it's really nice to have these figures, because when we look at the design of them, I really like the Symbiote Spider-Man costume design that they used. And they put all these like silver lines on him, so it kind of looks different from like the comic book Symbiote Spider-Mans. And these figures are actually very old now, but to me, they pretty much still hold up to this day. So the first one we're going to be taking a look at is the black costume Spider-Man 3. This is a 6-inch figure, which I didn't even know until a couple years ago that they even made one in this size. I really like the texture that they used on the black right here. I like the way they made the silver lines on them. It kind of looks like a gray. It's not too bright and it's not too dark, in my opinion. I feel like this one's just right. I think the head sculpt isn't too bad. I really like the silver paint they used for his eyes right here. Are very good. And what's really cool about this figure is he's super articulated. He doesn't have as much articulation as some of the modern Marvel Legends figures, but you can put his arms up that far. His shoulders rotate. You can move his wrists. He doesn't really have much head articulation. It could pivot up that far and go down that far. One hand, he has a whipping hand. Here he has a gripping hand. His legs can kick outward that far. They bend at the knees. And they could actually rotate in and out as well. So he does have some like butterfly joints and knee joints right there. He doesn't have much movement in his torso, though. You can see you can move his chest up that far. You put it that far down. It doesn't swivel at the waist at all. He's got like these T-jointed hips right here, but it doesn't bother me too much because it does not take away from the detail of the figure. Now, one of my favorite things with the figure is if we look at the back of him and we look at that spider right there, how it's silver, it's very nicely sculpted. Not only is it very reminiscent to the film, I feel like it does justice for this figure. Even though these are very early Hasbro figures, they're still one of my favorites in my opinion. This black costume Spider-Man is one of my favorite ones. And I know they released a few others. There was one in that Sandman Build-A-Figure wave. There was one that was actually like 12 inches tall. I just like this smaller one better. I actually reviewed one of the larger scale figures from Spider-Man 3, but I actually really like this one a lot. So the next one we're going to be taking a look at is another black costume, which it seems like all of his detail is pretty much the same. He's just a smaller scale. He still has the spider on the back. This figure is very old, so even though it's still painted, you can see some of the paint starting to fade away right there, because I've had him for a very long time. But if we put these two right next to each other, as you could see, this guy isn't too much bigger. I feel like this guy's a lot bulkier, but this guy here, he's pretty much just as good. He's got all the same paint details. Like I could see the paint on this one is a little bit lighter. But if we take a look at them from the back, they have the same texture that they use for both figures. And that's really interesting that they made a black costume Spider-Man in this size of 6 inches tall, because I didn't really know that until a few years back. So it makes me wonder, did they ever make a red one in this size using this body mold? I know they made a red one that was just a little bit bigger than this, maybe not by much. But the next one we're going to be taking a look at for comparison is, here is Spider-Man in his classic red and blue suit, and it's still a really great figure. As you can see, he's got silver lines on him and everything. He's got some pretty good articulation, which many versions of this figure were made when I did my research. This is like the superposable version, because he has articulation in his elbows, his arms, his legs, his knees bend, and he has a torso right here which can move. Unfortunately, the joints on my figure is actually very stiff because it's very old, but he does still have all that good detail in him. As you can see, there's a spider on the back. He's actually just a lot smaller in scale, but that doesn't really bother me because it's nice to have a decent sized Spider-Man figure, in my opinion, next to all the guys that are a lot taller than him. But my favorite part about this figure is the blue. I feel like on some Spider-Man figures, the blue is too light. Some I feel the blue is too dark. Here they got it just right. And I really like the way they went with like a darker, like more metallic red, because with these silver lines on it, I feel like it makes the figure pop out a lot more. And I actually feel like this is my favorite Spider-Man costume in cinema. Between Tobey's costume, Andrew Garfield's costume, and Tom Holland's costume, I do like this Spider-Man costume a lot more. I really like the eyes. I really like the lines and paint. And if somebody always asks me who my favorite Spider-Man is, I'm going to say Tobey Maguire. Not just for nostalgic purposes. I feel like he was a more film-accurate Spider-Man, in my opinion. I really love his character. I really like the villains in the movies. I felt like they were very well done. And I feel like these figures just bring the character to life. I really like these. I did like the Spider-Man 1 and 2 era of figures a lot more. Those were made by Toy Biz. These guys right here were all made by Hasbro. They have peg holes at the bottom of the feet, and they're just really great figures to have overall. I mean, if you don't have these in your Spider-Man collection, whether you plan on getting just a classic red and blue costume, or you want the symbiote version with the silver lines on it, whether it's the 6-inch one or the 3 3/4 inch one we got right here, I would highly recommend picking these guys up. They won't disappoint you, even though they're very old. They still hold up to this day, in my opinion. I would definitely recommend them, especially if you're a big fan of that first Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire. These bring back a lot of childhood vibes. I remember seeing these on Kmart shelves as a kid, and I just always wanted to have these in my collection. So I plan on keeping these guys for as long as I possibly can. They're really great. I would highly recommend them. And if you're looking for these guys, eBay is the best bet. You can find them on eBay like I found them. And they're not terribly expensive, though. I think depending on which figure it is, they could range from $20 to $30. In box, they go for a lot more. But some are not really that hard to find, so you shouldn't really have any trouble finding these guys. I would suggest getting them in good condition, though. And I believe these came with like web accessories and stuff, which I don't have because I picked these guys up loose. But it's just an opinion. You can't really go wrong with either one of these guys, in my opinion. So I would definitely recommend getting them if you don't have them. So this has been my review of the Spider-Man 3 Symbiote Spider-Man. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And once we reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I will be doing a full collection video, so stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of these figures? If you ever had them as a kid, and did they bring back happy memories? And thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the next video review.